As he entered the house, he heard sounds. Sounds he knew well, but hadn't expected. The reason for his early homecoming didn't matter. He was just home. He opened the door. John. It's not. Leave it. He took a step forward and Pumper started to recoil. John grabbed him by his thinning hair and yanked him back. I want to destroy you, John said quietly, looking him straight in the eye. Lift your chin. You can't hit me. I'm going to sue you. Screw you, lift your chin. A calm, even tone. Not a hint of the anger that lurked beneath the surface. I swear to God I'll sue you. Do you know who I am? You think I care? Pumper slowly lifted his chin, grimacing, thinking he could take it. John grinned and pounded his fist. Several times. Oh my God, John, what did you do? Brett? Brett, I have a lot of questions for you. But not right now. I have to leave so I don't do to you what I did to him. I just want to make sure this concept gets to you. Screw you! His voice was soft, quiet, and threatening. John didn't yell when he was angry. His voice went soft, a trick he'd learned in business. When he spoke softly, people had to concentrate to hear him. John, do you even know who he is? Her eyes widened, her mouth hidden by her hands. I'll tell you the same thing I told him. Do you think I really care? How the hell could you do that? In our bed? You shit stain. Screw you, 100 times screw you. John turned and walked down the hallway, hearing Maggie begging him to stop and talk to her. Leave me alone. John walked out the front door, got in his pickup truck, and drove to the nearest liquor store. With a bottle of bourbon, John parked in the back parking lot of the Walmart and, sipping the bourbon straight from the bottle, watched the traffic. The phone rang, and he disconnected the ringer with a glance at the screen. The phone was vibrating. Maggie was trying to reach him. He ignored the call the first 3 times, as well as the messages that came in the form of text messages. Finally, coming to the conclusion that he wasn't going to get any peace until he figured this out, he did answer the call. Hello? John, where are you? Come home so we can talk. We need to get past this. It's destroyed? You mean Brett? No, he woke up a few minutes after you left. He got mad, made a bunch of threats about what he'd do to you, and left. That's good to hear. Did you have fun with him again? No, never mind, I don't care. John, how could you ask me that? Despite what I observed, I can't imagine how I could ask that question to the whore I married. I must go now, don't call again. John, where are you? He disconnected and went back to chatting with John Barleycorn. When he woke up the next morning, he felt the brokenness and pain that comes after sleeping in a pickup truck. He thought about going to the hotel only after he felt too ill to drive. In a way, he'd decided that a hotel bed was too good, that he needed more torture. He felt like shit. His mouth was dry and tasted gross. He needed a coffee and a piss, and not exactly in that order. Looking at his phone, he realized it was 7:30, and grunting at the pain in his neck, he climbed out of the truck and headed to Walmart, buying a pair of jeans and a new shirt for work. He made it to the office and changed in the truck. Sitting down at his desk, closing the office door, he looked at his phone again. There were 37 messages, 20 emails, and 3 missed calls, all from Maggie. Bob walked into John's office and waved his hand in front of his face. What the hell is this? Are you drinking it or bathing in it? Smells like Maker's Mark 2019, such a good year. John smiled for the first time. Bad day yesterday, even worse night. He hung his head. Shit. What's up, buddy? Is Maggie unhappy about something? If you show up smelling like that, she'll be even more pissed off. Screw Maggie. John looked at Bob. You've never done that, have you? You're kidding, right? Yeah, I did. Right before you ripped my damn head off and dumped the body in the ocean, he said sarcastically. What's the matter? You know I got back early. Wasn't supposed to be back until Friday, right? She was in my bed when I got there, for crying out loud. He threw his head back with a groan of pure misery. In my bed? Oh shit. Are you sure? Stood in the doorway in shock for a minute or two. Took a look. He held out his hand, showing the abrasions where the pump's teeth had cut his skin. Beat the shit out of him. Oh shit, someone from the law firm? Don't know who he is. He wasn't answering questions when I left. In a soft voice, Bob asked, Did you destroy him? Unfortunately, no. He's going to come after me, that bald bastard. It would have been better if you had destroyed him, a crime of passion, but now if you destroy him, it's a premeditated crime. You're going to get fried. I know, I just can't handle this person. Shit, I loved her. Why? The anguish in his voice was painful to hear. I gave her everything she wanted, loved her more than I thought possible. Shit. Why? A lone tear rolled down his cheek slowly and unhindered. Have you asked her? No, I don't want to talk to her. You'll never get answers if you don't. I know, I don't want to know the answers. Screw this. I need to disappear for a while. You're leaving here? We've worked so hard to make this place a reality. We've been working on it since we graduated. Don't give up. I can't afford to buy you out. We'll figure something out. We have time. I'm getting on a boat this afternoon. I'll call you when I get there. John, wait, where are you going? I won't know until I get there. I'll call you when I get there. Keep paying my salary, and when you think it's getting unfair, call me and we'll work something out. Cell phone will be on if I'm in range. I'll keep working on the design, just from the boat or something when I get settled somewhere. I'll send you my new bank account number for direct transfer of money as soon as everything is ready. John gathered the things he felt he should need and walked back to his truck. After quickly stopping by the bank, setting up the new account, picking up the starter checkbook and quickly writing a message to Bob, he drove it to the marina. As he made his way down to his berth, the dock was humming. Down deep was a small 33-foot Grady white yacht, 11 feet 6 inches wide. The cabin was small but spacious enough for him. He bought her with an upgraded 560-gallon fuel tank. She was fast and saw a lot, but the two Yamaha 350 motors definitely pushed her around the water. Leaning back in his chair, he stared at the GPS screens, calculating distance, fuel consumption, provisions. A stop in Virginia Beach, another stop in Charleston, Jacksonville, Florida, Cape Canaveral, Fort Lauderdale, and then on to Nassau. At a couple hundred miles a day, he should be there in a week or even 2 with breaks in the weather. There was a low coming in from the Gulf of Mexico, and if it went east, he'd have to hold out for a couple days. But if it went north, it would miss him. Planning distracted him from the pain. He just needed to get out of there as soon as possible. Fear gripped him for a moment as he thought about being found before he left. No one would find him at sea for a long time. He knew the week ahead would be agonizing. The only thing to do while he was traveling down was to think. He thought about the dangers of traveling alone like this, but decided he didn't care about that. It wouldn't be the worst-case scenario, or maybe it would be, he just didn't care. It couldn't hurt any worse than it did now. As if on cue, his phone rang. He switched it to voicemail and soon heard a beep that told him he had received another message. He read the last message. You have to talk to me? Don't just walk away from us. His anger went from relative calm, when he wasn't in the forefront of his mind, to rage. Don't walk away from us? Had she thought of that when she decided to sleep with Pumper? Hadn't she walked away? He pressed her number twice and the phone rang. John, where are you? Where the hell did you disappear to? I've been worried about you all night and now all day. Where are you? It doesn't matter, I want answers. John, just come home and we can talk. Please don't give up on us. Don't, you've already given up. Remember when we had that event at school? Remember what we decided then? It was a mistake. I think it was you showing your colors. I should have listened to my intuition then. Instead, I listened to my heart, and you know what? I got screwed. Again. And not in a good way. Maggie. John was on another one of his trips. Maggie sat at her desk and stared at the picture of John in a beautiful gold frame on the desk. Tanned in a t-shirt, holding that awful fish with the most wonderful smile on his face. Marlin. The muscles in his arms stood out, not huge but strong, like ropes under his skin. He was always out fishing or traveling for work. She'd traveled with him a few times, but he always went to places like Mountain Home, Arkansas, Monroeville, Alabama. She went with him when he went to Mexico, thinking she would sunbathe in a hotel while he worked, but he went to some shithole in the oil fields 40 miles north of Guatemala. She was miserable the whole time, so that was the last time she traveled with him. She knew she was a bitch even then, grumbling while he was out in the oil fields helping to sort out equipment that did something to the drilling mud. He'd come back every day exhausted from the 100-degree heat, and she'd made him go to parties with her. He didn't want her to work, but she needed something to keep her busy. She went to law school for a couple years and got her degree, but she didn't want to study hard to pass the exam, so she got a job as a paralegal. Lawyers were so exciting. Their big cases, lawsuits, document after document that piled up on their desks. The phones were constantly ringing. The environment was so energetic, she found it exciting. She had enjoyed that energy for 10 years now. She was called into the office of one of the junior partners. She was well-built. She had worked hard on herself and knew how to hold her own. She knew that looks and personality made for interesting cases and good work. Not that she did it all by herself, but there were enough hints. The fact that she had brains was a definite advantage. Maggie, we have an interesting case that's being fast-tracked. It's a land deal whose use permit requires city approval. I need someone willing to work overtime. We have to get it done in time for the City Planning Commission meeting. Are you interested? Sounds interesting. Where is it? Just outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland. The zoning is correct, so we won't have to fight the county, just the city for a building permit. It's going to take quite a bit of time. I could use your help. Interested? Sounds like fun. She really didn't realize how she'd gotten here. Late hours at the office for a few weeks, then they decided to go out to dinner, first to a deli, then to a nice restaurant, then to a club. Dancing was a fun activity, a nice vacation. John was out of town again. Monday through Thursday, he was due home Friday afternoon. She knew the dance wouldn't pass the marital test. Brett had her pressed against him, and it was exciting when she realized the man wanted her. It wouldn't hurt to give him a little push, would it? We can't do that, Brett. We're married, but not to each other. Brett, no, please, not here, please. John. He checked the weather. It was calm enough to get to Virginia Beach, and there, away from here. Rudy's Bay wasn't too bad. If he refueled there, he could get to Charleston on the next leg and avoid Oregon Bay in North Carolina. Food on board after a quick trip to the grocery store, one last glance at his phone, he shut down the engines, pulled the ropes, and stepped out of the bay. He looked back at his truck. He liked that one, and he felt like he was leaving it, the way one leaves an old friend. It wasn't the only friendship he mourned. Pulling out of the marina, stepping on the gas and gaining altitude, he set the autopilot on a course down the Chesapeake. Tethering the boat to the guest dock, he pulled out his cell phone. 54 texts, 30 emails, and 5 more calls from Maggie, and he decided he had to deal with it. John, where are you? You have to listen to me. This doesn't mean anything. You're talking about our marriage, of course. It wasn't a question. No. It was just sex. It didn't mean anything. It meant you were a liar, that I couldn't trust you, and it meant our marriage was over. Is that what the connection between us meant? Nothing. When did it start? John, please come home, please. We need to talk. I'm not coming home. I'm coming to you. Where are you? Gone where you won't find me. You left town? Where did you go? Away. You tore my heart out. I can't bear the thought of you. John's voice broke. Aha, screw you, don't call me. I'm dead to you. Live your life. I'm leaving. John, please talk to me. Please don't go, God, please. Bye, Maggie. Have a happy life. Maggie. Let's go where we feel more comfortable, baby. John's gone and Barb's not expecting me. Let's go. You know this has been a long time coming. Maggie was shocked, but got up when he pulled her along and followed him to his car. During the short ride to the house she shared with John, she reached into her bag and checked her phone. It had been ringing while she was dancing. It wasn't the first time this had happened, but this time she felt fear. An anxiety rose up in her that she had never felt before, and she began to doubt again. She began to get angry. What was he waiting for? He's on the road all the time, going fishing when he's home in season. Screw him. He'll never know. I'll do it once. Put it out of my mind. I'll put it all away in one night and never again. John will never know. As soon as she put the key in the door, went straight upstairs to the bedroom. She woke up at 11 o'clock. Brett, no, we can't do this. It will never happen again. Come on, Maggie, you can't say you didn't like it. Shut up, Brett, it won't happen again. Maggie, now that I had it, and don't forget you gave it up willingly, I don't know how I could work with you if I never got it again. You do realize how this will affect your work, right? If I let the partners know I can't work with you? Brett, what would it take for that to happen? Am I locking myself into this forever? I'm going to leave first. I don't love you, I love my husband. He would destroy both me and you if he found out. Please don't take my husband away from me. Please. Now she was openly crying. I'll tell you what, one more trip, then I'll go back to the office and think it over. If I decide I need it, I'll let you know. We'll see what happens. You damn bastard! John. What the hell had I done? Why wasn't I good enough? I loved her so much I'd do anything for her. What did he have that I didn't? Low water had passed through the south and was due to hit the coastal waters tonight. He decided it was better to lay low than risk something going wrong and having to weather the storm in a dead boat with 7-foot seas and other unpleasantness. He jumped off the boat and went to the provision store where he bought a folding chair with a cushion. It had Marlin embossed on the back and he set it up in the cockpit, sat down and watched the people passing by. Some smiled at him, others just walked by, and some said hello to him half-jokingly. He couldn't get the image of the pumper out of his head. The story of his and Maggie's love affair, the movie he didn't want to watch but started anyway. Image after image flashed before his eyes, like the verse of a song where you can only remember 2 or 3 lines, but they play over and over in your head, threatening to rip his heart out again. He remembered the first time he saw her laughing in the student center. There was a small bar with food and she was sitting at a few tables. She was so full of life, almost too thin, in a halter top and jeans. The recessed light fixture above her table reflected light on her hair, so shiny, so silky that it caught his attention. Her hair seemed to be a hologram, changing with the light falling on it from different angles. Beautiful white teeth, crooked enough to know that God had blessed her with them and that they didn't come from the dentist's office. Her blue eyes stopped on him, light blue, ice blue, and John felt a chill as they briefly glanced at him. Her smile faded as she looked up at him, then grew again as she waved her hand at him. He smiled, nodded, blushed, and looked away. He started to gather his things. No way, John, she's no match for you, John thought to himself. He had to walk past her to get out. He looked at her and she looked at him. Hi. Hi. Cute and shiny. She's so damn cute and he's so not brilliant. Hell, not brilliant, but not creepy either. I hope she remembers me in an hour. That must happen to her a lot. He knew he'd remember her for a long time. A few nights later, he was standing at the door of the frat house, people coming in and out. The keg was full to the brim. Hey, I saw you the other day at the Gull's Nest, right? He turned and looked and realized it was her. Yeah, I think so. Why didn't you say hello? Yeah, I said hi. Damn, that sucked, he thought. But you didn't stay and talk to me. Why? I don't know you, I've never seen you before. I didn't think you'd be interested. He hated to blush, he knew she could see that. You don't talk much, do you? Not really. You know, you're making this hard. You're very direct, you know, he said, smiling. I know, it's an art. She flipped her hair back with her hand, posing with her leg bent and laughing. John fell in love with that laugh again, and decided he would do almost anything to hear it again. She's out of my league. It's stupid. If I don't leave right now, I'll get my heart broken. Well, I should probably get going. I have a test tomorrow and I need to study for a couple more hours. Wait, what are you studying? Engineering. I have a test tomorrow on thermodynamics. I don't even know what thermodynamics means. I like engineering because it has rules, and rules can lead you to all sorts of things. You just have to be creative in learning them and maybe apply them a little differently than others to get things done. I try to apply rules and trends to life in general. It helps me understand things. I'm not quite sure what you're getting at. She smiled, looking at him expectantly. Here's the point. If I look at you from across the room in the middle of the day, like that time, you're at least a 9. If you're smiling, you're a 9.5. And if you're laughing, you're a solid 10. And me, I'm a 5, maybe a 6 on a good day. She laughed. The only dating rule I've been able to figure out is to never date someone 1 or 2 levels above you. If the gap is bigger, the lower rung will suffer. And I'm just one of those people. Come on, you don't really believe that, do you? Absolutely. Take us, for example. I worship the ground you walk on, and am convinced that the only reason you don't walk on water is because you didn't want to get your shoes wet. You'll recognize that I'm obsessed with something like school or projects I'm working on. It's not up to me, it's just who I am. I know that. He smiled at her, and she found his smile cute, almost boyish, like he had a secret that only he knew. I'm also absent-minded and rather sloppy. No, not really, I just have a very high tolerance for mess. He smiled again, blocking out the noise of the party. You'd start smiling less and not laughing at all. Then some great guy would find you, and you'd think about the fact that maybe you deserved better. Every time you'd look at me, you'd be convinced you could be better, and it wouldn't be smug. He smiled at her, and she raised wide, icy blue eyes to him. Don't look at me like that, it's distracting. She laughed again. Self-confidence is defined as confidence that outweighs skill, but you definitely have what it takes to do this better than I do. So it's definitely not self-confidence, but as you go on, you've distracted me again. For days, weeks, or maybe even years, this story will develop. You will end up disliking me, perhaps even hating me, and I will leave with a broken heart. Perhaps we should just skip to the end. It's a lot less painful. You're crazy. You know that, don't you? She said, laughing. Well, in my mind, I just had a relationship with a beautiful woman, and we got through the whole thing, and you never once scolded me, and we parted as friends. Anyway, have a good day. Have a happy life. He pushed off the door jamb and turned to leave. He leaned over and whispered in her ear, "Goodbye, my love," and walked away. She stood, stunned, frozen, and watched him make his way through the crowd and out of the building into the darkness. Coming out of her trance, she tried, but couldn't make it through the crowd fast enough to catch up with him. When she popped out the door and looked both ways, he was nowhere to be seen. 2 days later, he was sitting in the student center reading a textbook, and she, a bubbly blonde, walked up to him. "Hi, Mindy, this is my ex." We were very happily married for a while, and then he lost his confidence and left. Hi, X. Hi, Mindy. He doesn't even know your name since you weren't married. Mindy said it with a look like she understood the joke, but wasn't sure about it. Well, we might as well have been. What's your name? If I'm going to pine for a lost love, I should at least know your name. John. Maggie. She reached out and shook John's hand, contradictorily, with a firm grip and the softest hands John had ever felt. They started talking, and when they looked up, it was getting dark, and there weren't many people left in the student center. Mindy had gone somewhere. Neither of them noticed it. Thanks for spending time with me, Maggie. Have a good weekend. I'll be looking for you around. John, if you asked me out on a date or something, I'd probably say yes. Maggie, your 10 against my 5 just won't work. John, you know that ratings aren't just based on looks. Is that really the only thing you're interested in about me? And by the way, you're definitely above a 5 in looks. No, that's not true, but now that I know how smart, human, and sweet you are, a 10 just doesn't fit. Yes, but now that I know you and how nice you are, you're much closer to a 10 than a 5 in my eyes. Don't sell yourself or make up my mind for me. You're tall, you've got muscles, but not too much. Your face is beautiful, brown eyes, brown hair, some stubble. Other than that, what don't you like about me? Why do I scare you so much, Mr. Man who doesn't know it? Huh. Fishing for compliments? Let me see. He looked up at her and she took in the sight of his brown eyes, which gave them a personality unlike any other eyes she'd seen before. Okay, how about this? When you laugh, my heart gets lighter. When you smile, my knees go weak. When you talk about ethics theory in business, which has to be the most boring subject I can imagine, my breath catches. I cling to every word. I've never interacted with anyone who focuses my attention as much as you do. I love it when you laugh. I would hang upside down on a lower tree branch and make monkey noises if I thought it would make you laugh. She laughed, and he smiled a soft and thoughtful smile. You don't talk about your problems, you think about others, and I find that almost irresistible. What scares me so much is that I know that at some point in the future you will break my heart, and it will be my fault. I will do something that will make you angry, or not do something I should have done. When you tell me goodbye, I love you so much I can't imagine the pain. I don't know if I'm willing to take that risk. Wait, did you just say you love me? Yes, now, I have to go now. I'll see you later. John, wait, she called out as he crossed the room and headed for the door. Please don't make me beg. I'll beg if I have to, but please don't do this to me. Just meet me tomorrow for dinner wherever you want. I agree, please? He hesitated for a moment, then shook his head as if he was about to do something he knew he shouldn't. I have a test Thursday morning. How about Thursday night? I can't Thursday, but Friday would be okay? Sure, meet me here at 6? Please. She rose on her toes, kissed him briefly on the lips and ran off, her hair bouncing from side to side. He stood with his hand to his lips, watching her through the window as she ran across the playground toward the dormitory. When he looked at the guy sitting at the table next to him, he laughed softly. You're done, kid. Just give up. She won. He leaned back in his folding chair. The rain wouldn't stop. It was cold. He rose from the chair, went through the helm, and down the 3 steps leading to the cabin. He crawled under the stairs to the double bunk, and tears mixed with the rain streaming down his face. He missed her so much, but she was gone. It was so painful. He would never make the same mistake again. John woke up to sunlight streaming in through the hatch above his desk. He made himself some scrambled eggs and sat down at the small table to eat. He used to love sitting here with Maggie, and then he started to remember how much it hurt. Damn bitch! He looked at his phone and realized he had to call the boys. He had a message from each of them. He really wished they weren't involved in all of this. He had 2 sons, Jimmy and Sid. Jimmy had just graduated from college and was working part-time as an intern for financial companies over the summer. John didn't really know what he was doing, but he knew he was trying hard. The guy called the day after he graduated from college and said he didn't need the monthly payments anymore. He wanted to stand on his own 2 feet. Sid was a scholar and was going to study for many more years. He was working on his doctorate. I think he had enough for another 3 years or so. He arranged for the company he worked for to pay his salary, tuition, and books. He had to work there for another 3 years after graduation, but financially he was provided for almost everything and got a big salary. He loved the sea as John did and enrolled in the ocean engineering department. John had always teased him about spending so much time learning that shit rusts in salt water. The thought of that brought the first glimmer of a smile in days. Hey Sid, I saw you called. Hey Pops, where the hell have you been? I decided to take a vacation. I'm off traveling. Mom's going crazy, Dad. What the hell happened? You don't need to know, buddy. Just know that things were bad, and I need to get away for a while. Mom wants to know where you are. Yeah, and I know you'll tell her if I tell you, so I won't tell you. Please just stay out of it. I'll stay in touch. Dad, what the hell did you do? Didn't do anything. Just know that I'm out of town and I'll be in touch as soon as I get where I'm going. If you need anything your mother won't give you, call me. I'll be in touch for a few days, so leave a message if I don't answer. You're on a ship, aren't you? Did you sail north or south? Yes, I sailed north or south. I have to run, I'll call you. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, Sid. Jimmy's call was predictable. Dad, where the hell are you? What have you done? Mom is hysterical, crying all the time and doesn't know where you are. She's been calling me once an hour since yesterday, asking if I've heard from you. What have you done? I haven't done anything. Dad, go home, you're acting like a child. Jim, I want to tell you not to get involved, not to take sides until you know the whole story. I'm going away for a while, I'll call you from time to time. If you can't tell me what you did, then stay out of it. The tone of voice brought John out of his thoughts. The anger that had always been under the floor ever since he'd watched Pumper siphon off money burst to the surface. I'll say it again, Jimmy. Don't take sides until you know what this is about. Once you understand, then you can take sides, and the dust will settle wherever it wants to. Mom said you're traveling and she thinks you have a girlfriend. I'm traveling for work so she can have the clothes she wants, the house she wants, the damn car. And no, I don't have a girlfriend. Never have. Not once. Never. Don't do this, Jimmy. Don't call me Jimmy. My name is Jim. You're acting like Jimmy. Tell you what, let's not do it again anytime soon. I gotta run. Damn. He'd always had a good relationship with both boys, but Jim was a mama's boy. Always had been. But he was also the athlete in the family. Surfed, soccer, hockey, never did anything half-assed. John was the chauffeur at away hockey games. He was the one who drove Jimmy to North Carolina when it was too cold to surf in the mid-Atlantic, coached the soccer team since Jimmy was Jimmy. He was a mama's boy, but he had a good relationship with John, or at least John thought so. That seemed to be changing as well. He knew Sid would be patient and calculating, but Jimmy, he'd be quick to take sides. Another weather check between Virginia Beach and Wilmington, North Carolina, told him that today would be a good day to sail. He had 3 days of calm seas before the next system would start gaining strength. In 3 days, he should reach St. Augustine. Then he would rest for a couple days before heading to Palm Beach. It was going to be a long journey. He strung fishing lines, followed the channel across the bay, and was out on the open sea again. South, definitely south. As soon as he was on the open sea and turned on the autopilot, the movie spun in his head again. She says you're the best thing in her life. He sat on a low concrete wall in the quad. She'd called and said she needed to talk to him, that it was important. He decided he had nothing to lose. Becky, we didn't have anything. We only had dinner twice, went to the movies once, a picnic by the river and a barbecue. That's it. We kissed a couple times, but nothing more than that. John had met Becky at a barbecue. She was another perky blonde, Maggie's sorority sister. Maggie had given her his number, of that John was sure. I know, but she still says it was the best night of her life. She'll definitely be good for you, you know. All you have to do is make a move. Are you kidding me? She's the one who made you call me? Are we still in high school? Next call you're going to make to her and then call me again to tell me what she said, etc. 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 I'm not going to play that game. John, she wants more than Saturdays with you now and then. Becky, last question. Why me? I see guys chasing her all the time. Why me? John, you're good looking, well-built, funny, smart, and if her descriptions of you kissing are any indication, you should open a kissing booth, charging $1 a kiss. You'd be rich. John laughed. I'll call her. We can talk, but I can't just hook up. It has to be a relationship for me. I don't know why. Maybe my feminine side comes out. Becky laughed. Please, John, call her. She's moping because she hasn't heard from you in a couple weeks. Do you think she knows the telephone is a two-way communication device? She could have called me. Becky threw John a glare. I'll call her. John met Maggie at the door of the sorority house. She was sitting on the stairs waiting for him as he approached. Hi, Maggie. Hi, Becky. How are you doing? Hi, John. She turned to Maggie and ran the brush over her shoulder as if removing lint. Don't be late, dear. I'll be waiting for you upstairs. She laughed and ran up the stairs to the big house. John, can we talk? Sure here? No, too many eyes and ears if you know what I mean. Let's take a walk. As they walked across the field separating the fraternity and sorority houses and sat down on a bench, Maggie began. John, do you like me? Do you find me beautiful? I thought we found that out during our first conversation, Maggie. Do you want me? Of course, every guy who's ever seen you wants you. Then I want you too. What's the problem? What am I not seeing? John sat in silence as a dark blue Porsche drove by. Rolling down the window, a young, swarthy guy leaned out the window and shouted after them. Nice, baby. Come on, baby. Let's go for a ride. John smiled and she gave the guy the finger. That's the problem, Maggie. Every guy who's ever looked at you wants you. Sooner or later, I won't resist. I'm old-fashioned. I'm not just dating. I want a relationship that will lead to something. I just don't see how we can handle the pressure of your looks. I need exclusivity. It's just something I need. I'm not competing in matters of the heart. It's either right or wrong. It's not a competition. I've seen you on campus with others, flirting with others. I can't stand it. It's just not right for me. John, I'm not interested in anyone else. When I went into Bogart's for a drink with the guys on Wednesday last week, it didn't seem that way to me. I don't know the guy's name, but I know his type. You seemed pretty nice holding hands on the table. John, he doesn't mean anything to me. It was just a date between friends. We don't have a relationship. Why didn't you warn me of your presence? Well, then it's not right for me. John, if you want to be exclusive, I can do that. You can? What happens when I have to write an article, when I'm working on a project, or worse, when I have to travel for work? Will you be able to just wait for me? Will you miss the big party, the event of the season? John, you're the only one I want. I'll break up with the other guys. I can wait for you. They're just friends anyway, not like you. Maggie, you should know that I'm not very good at sharing with others. I'm not jealous. I'm not watching your every move, but it only takes one time. Once the trust is gone, it's gone, and there's no getting it back. Ever. John, I understand I will never lose your trust. I promise. So we're officially in a relationship? John blushed. Maggie found that so sweet. Yes, John. Thank you. They walked around campus for a few hours, eating lunch in the student center. When they got out and went to cross the road, Maggie twisted her ankle in a pothole and would have fallen if John hadn't caught her. Shit, that hurts. John gently placed her on the ground and carefully pulled the tennis shoe off her foot. It didn't look injured, but what could John know? It's not swollen. Can you put some weight on it? Let's get you to the emergency room. It's near my apartment, not far from here. John picked her up in his arms, put his arms around her neck and carried her. A couple hours later, after claiming a mild sprain and advising her to stay as far away from her as possible, they walked out. She waddled a bit, and John carried her to his adjoining apartment. He carried her up the stairs, putting her down only to put the key in the lock. He put her on the bed. Shit, thought John, coming back to the present moment as the boat bounced on the waves of the intensifying sea. He looked at his GPS and saw that he was almost east of the bay. He eased off the throttle a little, turning west toward the bay. His eyes struggled to focus through the tears. A horrible thought came into his head. I wonder if it was like this with her the first time she was with Pumper. The pain was almost physical, and the anger flared with renewed vigor. After refueling the boat, he pulled into the parking lot he'd rented for the night, went downstairs and got a folding chair. He sat down on the deck, placing the bottle of whiskey at his feet. A good drinking session was as good as it got. John was too green to head out the next day, so he just lay on the yacht. His phone kept vibrating, but he didn't touch it until it had traveled across the table to the edge. Each time it vibrated a little harder, and the next ring would invariably send it to the floor. It was surprisingly fascinating, like watching an ant walking down the sidewalk. Hello. John, where are you? Why don't you want to come home so we can talk? She just rushed into the argument. Without even saying hello. It's not my home anymore. I don't live there anymore, and I'm not coming to your house again. John, please! Don't do this! Please! It's not... Don't say that, Maggie. It didn't mean anything. It was just one time. I didn't mean it. It just happened. It was just one time. It was just one night. All the other bullshit excuses and reasons. I hate being a cliché. Don't lie to me anymore. Just one question I have to ask, and then I'll walk off into the sunset and you'll never hear from me again. Why? John, please. I love you. Please, can we forget about this? Maggie, remember when we first started dating, you had that date. You told me you were breaking things off with Tim and had to see him again. That's not what I saw then. That's not how I feel now. That was bad, but this is worse. You broke our trust, or at least my trust in you. I gave you a second try and it took you a while, but you blew it. Now answer my question before I hang up for the last time. Why? John, it's not what you think. It was a mistake. That's the first true thing you've told me. It was definitely a mistake. It ended our relationship, our marriage, the happy home our children remember. John's anger continued to build at the same rate as the discomfort in his stomach. Haven't I always given you everything you wanted? A house in the country, a car, clothes, jewelry. I thought our life was pretty good, you never complained? And now I find out it wasn't good enough. He heard sobs in the receiver and continued. It's not you, John, it's me. Screw you. Why? Maggie, just answer me this question. Why? If it's not because of me, then why? John, just come home. Tell me where you are and I'll come to you, please. Can we just sit and talk? No, I need to know why. I don't know, John, it just happened. If we can't find out why, how can we avoid it in the future? I'm done. Finished. Goodbye, Maggie. Please understand that this is goodbye, not goodbye to seeing you or talking to you. It's just goodbye. No, John, he heard, looking at the phone to press the end button. Not misery, not anger, but just... He would never forget those agonizing days, the first few days of their relationship. He should have seen it coming. She'd told him she was breaking up with the others. God, how many had there been? The movie spun in his head again. Him sitting in the sun, a glass of water in the cup holder beside him. First he heard her laugh. She was standing next to Tim, throwing her head back and laughing, holding onto his hand. Her beautiful smile, he didn't expect he'd never share it with anyone else. But the way she looked at the guy told him this wasn't the empty relationship she said she had with the others. John had a choice, stay in the shadows or make himself known. Unable to be shy, he stepped out of the shade of the tree he was standing under. Hi, Maggie. The look on her face told him all he needed to know. They promised to be exclusive. She'd confessed her love to him over 2 weeks ago. This didn't seem exclusive. John, this is Tim. Nice to meet you. Tim extended his hand. John didn't reciprocate. He almost felt sorry for Tim. He obviously didn't know anything. I'm sure it was good to see you, Maggie. John turned and walked away. He wanted to punch and hurt, but he couldn't do it. John, wait. Sorry, I don't have time. Maggie stood in indecision. She was going to break up with Tim, but she hadn't decided yet. She could feel her face turning pale and fear stirring in her stomach. Honestly, she was going to break up with Tim, who stood looking back and forth at her and John as he turned the corner of the building and out of sight, and she realized it was her she was trying to convince. Who was it? Asked Tim, uncertainty written all over his face. It was John. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. What do you mean you wanted to talk? He's my boyfriend, I guess. Then why are you here with me? I wanted to tell you face to face. Maybe over dinner. I don't blame him for being mad. Bye, Maggie. Tim, wait. John went to the library and tried very hard to study, but nothing was working. He knew it was useless, but he tried anyway. Finally, he gave up and went home. Hey, you're here. That girl you were talking about is trying to reach you. She's calling about every 20 minutes. The phone rang as if on demand. I don't want to talk. What should I tell her? Tell her I'm not here and to stop bothering you. What did she do? Run over your dog? Cruel person. Hello? A brief hesitation. No, he's not here. I was told not to expect him today. I don't know where he is. I only know he's not here. John heard her reply from across the room. Shit. Ray hung up the phone and smiled at John. Let's go get a drink. Tell old Ray all about it. I'm buying the first 3 rounds. You're on your own from here. Ray pulled John into his bed late at night. He'd heard enough about St. Maggie tonight. Once John got his load on, he started talking about how he met her, how he spent time with her, how he went to the movies, what he liked about her. I mean, pretty much everything. And then went on to his whining until his speech became slurred and his mind stopped thinking. Ray was glad he'd finally calmed down. It couldn't cure everything, but sometimes a good drinking session could cure a lot of things. John left campus after the exam. He spent the week at home hanging out with his mom and dad. His dad was the one who got him into yachting. His dad sailed and had a great 32-foot Nicholson yacht. John fell in love with the sea, with the wildlife, with cruising after dark, with the light trails of dolphins chasing the boat at night. He fell in love with the night sky near the shore where the stars were so bright. He lay on his back and just watched the stars move across the sky. He lamented that he couldn't share this with Maggie. Maggie was waiting for him when they pulled into the yacht. How did you find me? I didn't want you to. I went looking for you, and when Ray tried to explain to me that you were gone, I saw an envelope on the table addressed to you. I went to your house, but only your mom was home. We spent the whole day together. I told her what happened. Finally, she said you would be back on shore today, so I went to the nearest wharf and waited. She didn't tell me where to find you. I got here at 7 in the morning, but I was so afraid I had missed you. She told me not to expect a warm welcome. She said you don't open up often, but she knew something was bothering you. It's not like you to drop out of school like that. She was right, I don't want you here. Why not, John? I told you I was backing out and I told you it would take some time. Did you sleep with him? Why are you asking me that? No, I didn't sleep with him, John. Well, not this time. I'm not a virgin and you know it. We said we were in an exclusive relationship and that's the way it is. We've left everyone else out since we agreed. Tim didn't seem to realize that. He left me in the restroom. I never saw him again and I never will, John. He seemed like a smart guy. John, you're all I need, please. He was about to leave. I didn't expect to see you with him. It hit me hard. I'm not competing for you, Maggie. It either works or it doesn't. You either love me or you don't. If you love me, you don't want to be with anyone else. If I ever find out you're with another guy, it means you don't love me, and that will be the last time you see me. Period. Look, I came here to see you so you'd know I was serious about our promise to be exclusive. It meant nothing to me. I understand how it looked to you, and I'm sorry. It will never happen again. Can we go back to the way things were? Please don't walk away from me from this. Please? Maggie, if you were honest with me, I'd be okay with it. I wouldn't like that you were seeing another guy, but I could probably get over it. Not knowing and tripping over you like that, it seemed like you were hiding something, that you weren't being honest. I won't put up with it. I just won't. He shook his head and lowered his gaze. For the next few moments, he mentally went through the list. Would life be better with or without her? For a few weeks, things had been cold between them, but Maggie kept pushing for what she wanted, and eventually John thawed out. Their relationship began to grow and grow again. The ice in the glass had long since melted, and John took a sip of warm water. Damn it! Why didn't I get the hint? Had she been seeing guys on the side all this time? How long has she been having fun with him? Has this marriage for the past 30 years been a farce? Is there anything real? Wondered John. He got up and prepared to head out to sea again. Cleaning, buying provisions, sleeping that night was difficult, and the questions kept running through his mind. The next morning he was on his way, to Georgia, then to Florida, and finally to sea, to Nassau. Maggie. Oh shit, what am I going to do? Wailed Maggie, turning to Becky. I've lost him, I've lost everything. Becky didn't give up. Maggie, why did you do this? What the hell were you thinking? You gave up a 30-year relationship for a shitty idiot. How are you going to explain that to the boys? I'm not going to explain that to the boys. Oh my God. How can I? That brought on another bout of tears. She cradled her face in her hands, tears streaming down her cheeks. Have you talked to them? No, not really, not since I told them he left. I keep calling them to see if he's called them. He's only called Jimmy once and Sid hasn't said a word. So according to them, John just left you for no reason, he just left. And you don't think they'll wonder if John did something wrong? Are you just going to let them think what they think? Are you willing to take the risk that it will damage their relationship with John and do nothing to prevent it? You don't deserve him, you know that, don't you? I was so good, I just stumbled, you know? You make it sound like you slipped on a banana peel and landed on top of him. You slept with him all night. In John's bed. What the hell were you thinking? Damn girl. Do you think John will ever forget walking in and seeing that? Maggie looked at her, and her eyes reflected understanding. If you had fun with him in the car and drove home alone and John somehow found out about it, maybe, although I doubt from John, but maybe. No, you brought the guy back to John's bed and he found you on the next, day. How can you explain that? You broke the nicest guy I've ever met. He was a coach, gave everything to you and the guys, worked his ass off. Do you have any idea how many women threw themselves at him? I saw it happen. He was always polite, always soft, but always decisive. No meant no, he wasn't interested. Period. And you dismissed that. I have to do something, Becky. I have to let him know I love him. You can try, but I'm not relying on you. If you can get him to talk to you, if you can beg, crawl to him, be the most wonderful wife in history, and never even think about lying to him again. It will kill him in a heartbeat. You will also have to deal with the boys. If they accuse their father, it will all be over. You realize that, don't you? Oh God, I've messed up everything. He has to talk to me. Has to. John. John was sitting on the cockpit floor in the back of the plane, a pump in his hand. He was in his uniform, shorts and a tattered t-shirt. Always a fish t-shirt. His tan had darkened over the last week in port. The Caribbean sun was scorching mercilessly. Hi. I'm Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Without looking up, he noticed there was a locking ring on the case. If I turn it this way, it might come loose. Then I can unlock it, thought John. What are you doing? Fixing the pump. Why? It's not pumping. Yeah, but where does it go? What's it doing? It's pumping water into the well. Okay, now I realize I know less than I thought I did. The sarcasm made John look up. Long blonde hair, slim but not skinny figure, the sun off her back. John couldn't see her eyes, but he could see her smile. He instinctively smiled back. There's a tank that holds the bait fish, and this pump feeds water into it, takes water from the ocean and feeds it into the tank. The water then overflows into a drain that goes back into the ocean. This way, the water stays fresh, doesn't overheat, and provides oxygen. The bait remains alive, hence the name Living Well. It was the longest conversation he's been a part of in the past 3 weeks. That was nice. What was nice, Sarah? You explained it like everyone would want to know, not like I was stupid, even though I seemed stupid for asking the question. Thank you. You're welcome. You don't talk much, do you? Not usually. Can I come aboard and take a look? Sarah, can I help you with something? I'm just trying to figure out how to fix my pump. I wanted to go fishing this morning. I'm sorry if you don't want to be disturbed. My mom and dad thought it would be good for me to swim out here. But they're just reminding me of the, bad things. Things I don't want to think about. John looked at her again and she hesitated, apologizing. He saw the pain flash across her face, only to fade away after a second. Well, if you want company, I'm not sure I'm the right person for it. I try not to think about bad things. Are you here alone? Where's the wife and kids? John shuddered. He didn't feel like lying to her for some reason. The ex stayed home. The kids are grown and separated. You came here alone? On this boat? Yeah. I need to buy a new pump. Stop by later if you want. Can I come with you? Where can I buy a pump like that? Sure, if you want, but I need to stop by the provision store at the marina office. Will you wait for me? I need to tell my mom where I'm going. Sure. John watched her run down the dock, up the decking to the 60-foot sailboat standing in several bays. He figured she was in her early 20s, maybe a little more. A man peered out of a cabin on the dock, and John timidly waved at him. He didn't wave back. When he could make out her face without the backlight of the sun, he figured she was in her early 30s. Small crow's feet at the corners of her eyes, creases at the corners of her mouth. Do your parents mind if you come with me? Yeah, they're just overprotective of me. I didn't go through the best of times before we came here. I'm sorry. They walked in silence down the dock, the steel drum music growing louder as they approached the marina office. There was a tiki bar with a sandy floor. A few people were sitting at the bar watching the steel band play. John asked Sarah, "Would you like a drink?" That would be nice. Are you sure you don't mind? Do you have time? Yeah. I haven't talked to anyone for a couple weeks now. It's just me and Down Deep. I'm stuck on this damn boat with Mom and Dad, couple of centuries. Not exactly what I need right now. What do you need right now? A glass of white wine. John smiled at her. They sat at a table away from the bar in the hustle and bustle of the steel band. The afternoon breeze was just beginning to pick up, dispelling the stifling summer heat. So, John, how long have you been here? What's your story? Let's figure out why they are, to quote you. Couple of the century and why it pisses you off. I went through a rough divorce and my parents decided I needed to get away. They decided we'd come here, rent a boat, and get away from our problems. She laughed, musical, melodic, and sad at the same time. Her teeth were dazzling white and her eyes were a soft green. What's wrong with that? They seem to care about you. A bad divorce and I'm stuck on a ship with two people who've been in love with each other since I was 18. It just reminds me of something I'll never have. I love them, you know. Very, very much. I just wish Daddy could sail or hire a captain who could... I don't know what to wish for. I thought I had it all. I had a good job. I thought I had a good marriage for 20 years. I had a house with a white picket fence, a kid in college who was doing well, and one night it all came crashing down. It was all over in one night. A tear rolled down her cheek. I'm sorry to dump it all on you, John. I'm sorry, I have to go. Sarah, please don't go. I understand you more than you can imagine. There's no way she's old enough for all this to have happened. It just can't be, thought John. I've been alive for almost 30 years and it all came crashing down in 15 minutes. It was during the day, not at night, but the result was the same. I left and never came back. Oh, John, I'm so sorry. Are you divorced now too? No. Didn't go through that process. Have you talked to her? What happened when it happened? I talked to her a few times on the way here. Just short conversations. More questions from me than anything else. Not a lot of answers. Let's see, a week and a half to get here, and I've been here almost a week. Sarah leaned back in her chair and looked at John with an expression of sadness. It was the most caring look John had seen in months. So fresh, John. Do you want to talk about it? Maybe someday, but not right now. When are you coming home? We have 2 weeks left on the boat, but we may be back sooner. Dad tried to steer the boat, but it was a lot harder than he remembered, and Mom and I don't know anything. There's nothing we can do to help. Your dad must be totally nuts. John looked at his phone. 23 unread messages. He opened the marine weather app. There's going to be strong winds tomorrow, but the next day seems fine. Maybe we can get the boat out for the day. Do you think your dad will let me help him steer the boat? I don't know. I wouldn't want to hurt his feelings, but maybe. Don't tell me you know how to sail? Yeah, my dad had a 30-foot sailboat when I was younger. We did a lot of sailing. It wasn't as big as your boat, but I can't imagine the principles are much different. Will you have lunch with us tomorrow? Can you give this to Papa? I know it would make a huge difference to him. Sarah sat back in her chair, her gaze intense. She looked so excited and at the same time afraid that it wasn't true, that it wouldn't work out. I think we can work something out. Can we meet back here tomorrow at noon? Oh, John, I'm so sorry. I understand what you're going through, and here I'm asking you to help my family. It's not fair. It's okay, Sarah, I don't mind. Really. The next day at noon, John walked up the gangway to the dock and saw Sarah waving to him as he approached the bar. He reached out and shook the older man's hand. Sir, John Baker, nice to meet you. Ben Livingston. The smile didn't reach his eyes, and he looked at John suspiciously. I take it you sail? Yes, sir, replied John, sitting down in the vacant chair across from Ben. When I was younger, my father had a 32-foot Nicholson yacht. Instead of baseball and camping in the summer, we went sailing. He sold the boat a couple years ago when he couldn't run it on his own anymore. John, this is my mom, Beth Livingston. Beth was a more grown-up version of Sarah, still beautiful, with the same smile. Hi, John, thanks for meeting us today. Sarah told us that you know how to sail, and Ben was very excited about getting out on the boat tomorrow. We don't want to upset you, but it would be a big favor to us. Ben and Beth questioned him with practiced skill. Ben asked technical questions, and Beth tossed in challenging questions during the conversation. Back at Down Deep, John realized that they knew a lot more about him than he was willing to share. The three of them knew that he had caught his wife cheating, that it was still too fresh to know what he was going to do, about the origins of his boys, about hiding from everything down here with no timetable. They knew he was an engineer who had been out of touch with his office for almost 3 weeks, and that he was almost ready to face the world again. The schedule for tomorrow was set. John lay on the bow of the boat on the sailbags and watched the unruffled water bearing down on him. A light breeze was blowing, enough to keep them moving through the shallow ocean waves. Sarah settled down beside him, also lying on her back and looking up at the sky. Penny for your thoughts, John. They're probably not worth a penny. In fact, I'll probably have to pay you. You know, you've made Dad happier than I could have imagined even a day ago. He's better off than he thinks he is. I didn't do much, but I gave him the confidence to make decisions. He's fine. John, what are you going to do? Now I'm going to have to pay you. That's just what I was thinking. I think my break in business is coming to an end. I'll have to contact the office. I'm sure I have business to attend to. I'm going to have to clear things up with my kids, and I'm going to have to contact her and start dividing things up. Stand by, shouted Ben from the helm. He's in his glory, isn't he? Said Sarah, as John began to rise with a rare smile on his face. It's good to see. Look at the way your mom is looking at him, like he's going to give milk or something. A cloud flashed in John's eyes. I thought I had this shit. Sorry. John let go of the port side rope when the sail started to rock on the turn and pulled up the starboard slack when the boat started to lurch on the turn. He adjusted the Genoa, making sure they were getting maximum thrust from the light breeze and the mainsail was learning not to flutter. Looking up, he made sure they were heading downwind towards the harbor and realized that the day of relaxed sailing would soon be over. He settled back on the bags of sails. I'm not looking forward to it. I know how you feel. I went through this about a year ago. John, whatever happens, I'd like to keep in touch with you. She didn't think John could hear the pounding of her heart, but he was. I know it's not the time, and it's not what you're thinking, but in just a couple short days, you've reminded me that there are decent people around. She blushed, glanced up at him, and just as quickly looked away when he caught her gaze. Decent men. Sarah, if only we'd met at another time. Later, after lowering the sails, John put the yacht in position. Making sure the ropes were properly tied down, he reached down and turned off the diesel engine. That was fun, Ben. Thanks for a great day. Brought back a lot of good memories. Thank you, son. Would you mind another day this week? Ben smiled hopefully at John, his silver hair ruffling in the wind and the red sunspots on his cheeks. He had the expression of a genuinely happy man. I'd love to, but I'll have to adjust my schedule. Can I call you back? Sure. Just let us know when you'd like to go out. I know Sarah will love it. I'll love it too, sir. Are you all stowed and washed, or do you need help washing the boat? I think the women are already working on that, but thank you. Ben smiled and gestured for Sarah and Beth to wash the deck with soapy water. I'll be off then. Have a nice evening. John slid off the side onto the dock, smiling. I'm going? I feel like a British captain in World War II. Where did that come from? He thought, as he walked back to the down deep. Crawling onto the boat reminded him of his loneliness. He felt even more alone than he had the day before. Maybe he was starting to feel again. Maybe that was a good thing, maybe not. Anger came over him again, and for the first time in a long time, he picked up his phone and turned it on. Voicemails and texts weren't a priority for him, and he dialed Bob's number. Holy shit. You're alive. John, I was getting worried. Where the hell are you? I'm in Nassau. No shit, really. How are you, buddy? You okay? I'm still pretty pissed off, Bob. I know I have a job to do, even while I'm here licking my wounds. Yeah, John, we've got a problem with Alexander's account. They have a valve and elbow that keep failing. They want a new design to fix it. Can we move the valve or eliminate the elbow or something? Hell, do you have time to figure it out? Email me the plans, Bob, and I'll take a look. I'll send you something by the end of the day tomorrow. If you do that, I won't feel so bad about your direct deposit tomorrow. Yeah, about my direct deposit. Hold it for a day or two. I need to divide things up, square up my investments. Speaking of which, she calls every day, asking if I've heard from you. Can I tell her we've been talking? As long as you don't tell her where I am, you can say we talked. If you talk to her, tell her I won't talk to her again until she tells me the reason. I've already told her that, but I don't think it would hurt her to hear it again in a different voice. John, how do I get in touch with you? I've called your cell phone many times with questions, but I keep getting to voicemail. I haven't turned it on. I'll call you every day at 3 o'clock unless I'm gone fishing. If I'm gone, I'll call you when I get back. John and Bob spent over an hour discussing the various projects in progress from equipment startup to maintenance. They discussed the normal day-to-day running of the business, personnel issues. It was a normal conversation, and the normality of the call only struck John after he hung up. Dad, where the hell are you? This isn't funny anymore. Mom is furious. She calls me every day, asking if I've heard from you. Jim calls me too. Where are you and what the hell happened? Asked Sid. Sid, I really don't want to go into details. It was really bad and I don't see us recovering from it. Mom said the cops are looking for you. What did you do? I hit someone. Hard a few times, but not hard enough. That doesn't sound good, Dad. When are you coming home? I'm not sure I'll be coming anywhere but a short visit. I need to get some things in order and then I'll come back here. And where is that, Dad? Not in the village. As soon as I get things settled with your mom, I'll tell you and you can come visit. Jimmy's furious too. He said your last conversation didn't go very well. He's very angry and wants to know what you did to Mom. She won't tell us, just cries a lot. He'll get over it and so will she in time. Come on, Dad, just tell me what's going on. Please? Just realize that I'm fine and I'll be back soon. I'll let you know when I get there. Maybe we can have dinner or something. Kristen will be happy to see you too, Dad. Tell her I said hi and I'll call her in a week or two. John ended the conversation, pulled out the chair he'd bought on the way over, and uncorked a new bottle of whiskey. John woke up to Sarah tugging on his arm. Come on, John! You need to go to bed. You shouldn't be here. Not right now. I'm not a good person. Bullshit. Get up, go to bed, and we'll talk in the morning. You know you're beautiful, don't you? In your condition, everyone is beautiful. Not everyone. Sarah smiled as John rose uncertainly and stumbled down the 3 steps to the cabin. She laid John on the bed, pulled the covers over him, and kissed his forehead when the first snore sounded. We'll talk in the morning, John. She watched him for a few minutes before getting up and quietly descending from the boat. John woke up trying to count how many hangovers he had experienced recently. For some reason, that number was very important to him at the moment. John, get your ass out of bed. Come on, I've got some eggs and bacon for you. John stumbled back to the stairs and Sarah laughed. You did it better last night. Yeah, about last night. Was I an asshole? If so, I'm really sorry. You told me I was beautiful and that you loved me. If you meant it, that's fine. If it was bullshit, then, yeah, you're an asshole. Oh shit, I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, you're beautiful, but John, I'm kidding. Relax, but I'm going to make you talk to me this morning. Can you dim the sun? It's awfully bright. John covered his face with his hands, rubbing his red and watery eyes. It's good for you, vitamin D and all that. So, John, what's wrong? You really want to know my full and shitty story? Shit, pardon the language. You're going to miss it for now. Yeah, I want to know what's eating you up inside, John. Keeping it all inside is not healthy. You know, I caught her cheating with someone, her boss at work. You say caught? But what does that mean? Heard her talking? Saw her somewhere? Found a check? No, I walked in while they were doing it. It's a sight I can't forget. Oh, shit. What did you do? I hit him 3 times as hard as I could, looked at her, and left. And have you talked to her since then? I talked to her a couple times on the way here. I told her I wouldn't talk to her again until she told me the reason why. She didn't answer that question, so I haven't talked to her since. You look like you're in pain. Can't you stop thinking about it? You drink yourself into oblivion every night. I loved her, Sarah. Loved her with all my soul. I cherished her. Your use of the past tense seems awfully final. No chance of reconciliation? None. The luster is gone from that apple. We went through one event when we first started dating, and I dealt with it. And this? Well, I'll always remember that look when I think of her, when I see her. It makes me doubt myself, you know? Am I not good enough? Am I bad in bed? Is he more? Sarah laughed. John, men are much more hung up on size than women. It may matter to some women, but for most it's an emotion. The biggest erogenous zone is the mind. You know what I mean? Then I must be lacking in skill. It was the little bald bastard. I know I'm not handsome, as they say, but he wasn't much better. Don't underestimate yourself, John. She told me the same thing once. Didn't help much, I should have known. I knew it was going to happen. Knew what? How did you know? When I was in college, I had a rule, developed in engineering classes combined with a little thought. Never date someone who is 1 or 2 grades above you. It's always the one below who suffers. Here I was, the bottom feeder. I was hurt. I should have known. John, if she's more than 2 points above you, she must be stunning. Don't forget the slut. She has to be a guy's wet dream, gorgeous and slutty. Are you sure it's over? Done. I couldn't be more sure. I don't know what to say. I can't say anything, John. You don't want to hear that everything will heal, that there are more fish in the sea, that women are like buses, that you'll wait a little while, and another one will come along. Pick your cliché and insert it here. It hurts, it sucks more than I can describe, and the only thing that can heal it is time. I'm sorry. Thanks, Sarah. A single tear rolled down his cheek, and the urge to take him in her arms and comfort him was almost irresistible. John, when you get back on your feet, would you mind finding me? I wouldn't mind being your turncoat, you know that. Now isn't the time, but I wouldn't mind when you're back on your feet if you'd look me up. Sarah, I have to go back to the 1 or 2 point rule. You're out of my league, besides. I'm going to go home next week to clean up, and when I get back, you'll be gone. It's okay, John, I'll see you again. I'm not asking for anything more than friendship. I'd like to think we'll see each other again, Sarah. I'd like that very much. On the flight from Miami to BWI the following week, John was deep in thought. He looked down as the plane lifted off from Nassau, and as he saw the down deep and then Sarah's boat rising a few slipways away, he was imbued with a sudden melancholy. Memories of sailing, of the peace and tranquility of such a loving family flashed through his mind. As soon as he boarded the flight home, melancholy was replaced by anger, and his thoughts returned more and more to Maggie. Damn bitch. When he stepped off the plane through the security door from which there is no return, Maggie was waiting for him. It had been almost a month. She had lost a little weight. Bags had appeared under her red, puffy eyes. But even now, not in her best shape, she was beautiful. What are you doing here? Bob told me when you were coming. Please don't be mad at him. John, I'm so sorry. Please let me explain everything. I'm not interested in talking to you until you explain why. Are you prepared to answer that question? I can try. Please. It's a yes or no answer, Maggie. Yes or no. I don't know, John. I ask myself over and over again why. How could I do this? John, please, I love you. I only love you, please. She began to cry, her eyes a little red and tears flowing down both cheeks. That's too many words, Maggie. I've been traveling all day. I'm tired. I just want to check into a hotel. I'll call you before I leave, but you have to understand. Please, John. I'm begging you, please forgive me. Please, can't we forget about this? You don't have to go to the hotel, just come home. Maggie, you knew the rules. Leave everyone behind. We were a team. No rivalry until death do us part. I thought that meant one of us had to die, but apparently that was before the relationship died. You killed them. We broke up. End of story. I have to go. Maggie looked pleadingly at his back as he walked away, got into a cab, and drove away. John, exclaimed Bob when John walked into the office the next morning. Hello, Bob. It's good to see you. The clients have been asking for you most of all. They want you to help them. We're having problems with the launch. Can I ask you to go to St. Louis to help? They are complaining a lot and want you to be there for a week or two, at least long enough to straighten things out. I don't know, I need to see a lawyer. I think I'll go to Tim's, sort out the finances, figure out what else I need to deal with to get out of all this. Are you okay? I know that should have been my first question, asked Bob, putting his arm around John's shoulders as they walked down the hallway. Bob, my head is clear, but emotionally I'm dead. I don't know if I'll ever get over it. I just can't see it. John reached across the table for Maggie's framed picture, picked it up, looked at it, and tossed it in the trash. Everything around here reminds me of her. I don't think I can do this. Maybe we should go our separate ways. John, you're the heart of this place. I know there are no irreplaceables here except you and me. I have a proposition for you. Once you're settled in, let's go out to lunch and talk. I think there's a way to work things out. I don't want to hear it, Bob. Don't try to convince me to bring that cheating whore back. No damn way. I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about work. Bob laughed, heading out the door. Bob, when I get divorced, I have to figure out how to make sure she doesn't get a piece of the business. I have to meet with a lawyer tomorrow morning and start the process. So you've already thought about that? Yes. I think I'll go to the police station and turn myself in. You'll fire me for misconduct, and I'll be a consultant again in a month or two after the divorce is final. Then she can get her teeth into just my counseling fees. I have to see a lawyer first, and he'll take me to the police station. You'll have to work it out and through a lawyer. Do you think this asshole will press charges? I hope so. It'll give us a reason for a new agreement between us, but I'll sue him for alienation of affection, habitual non-compliant behavior, moral reservation, and anything else Tim can think of and convince him to drop the charges. We can figure out how to structure things when this is over. You know I hate this, right? You and I built this place together, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. It's okay. Things will go back to normal faster than you think. Well, at least the new normal. All right, I've got to run. John, how's it going? Tim smiled, walking across the room with an outstretched hand. I've gotten better, Tim. It's personal, family, criminal, and business law. I don't know who to turn to. I was hoping you could direct me. John, what's going on? A month ago, I caught Maggie having fun with her boss. Oh, shit. Where? How? I caught her with him in my bed. Oh, shit. What did you do? Knocked him the hell out, then left the country. Went on a boat to Nassau. Been there about a month, just got back yesterday. Does she know you're back? Yeah, met me at the airport. I have a couple questions. I want a divorce. Please prepare the papers and serve them on her, or tell me who I should contact to prepare the papers and serve them on her. I will also have to deal with the police. This is Brett, her boss at Dewey, Scrum and Howe. I believe I'm wanted on an assault charge. Let me make a couple calls. Can you wait outside? Before you do, you should know that I want to use this. I think we can get him to relent if we threaten a lawsuit, but I should be fired for inappropriate behavior so she can't get my half. I didn't realize to take pictures, so I have no proof other than what I saw. He said, she said. I don't know if she can be charged with adultery, and I don't know if it would make a difference if she did. Okay, let's get Mary and George here so we can attack all of this with a united front. I don't know how I'll be able to afford it. What do you need for the fee? John, don't worry about it now. We'll get it all sorted out. It's the story of my life, all in uncertainty. I hate it. Charges had not yet been filed, and being arraigned was one of the most humiliating experiences John had to go through. When he appeared before the Justice of the Peace, it was via video link. He stood with George next to him on a podium with a screen in front of him showing the judge. So, Mr. Baker, it says here that you assaulted Mr. Brett Gunaris, striking him several times in the head and face. How do you plead guilty? Guilty, Your Honor, but I didn't hit him in the head, only in the face. 3 times. Even on video, the judge was an attractive woman. Face slightly angular, eyes bright, expression intelligent. Do you admit to hitting this man? Please tell me there are extenuating circumstances. Yes, Mom, there are, replied George. Oh, please, Mr. Baker, enlighten me. I don't mean to be disrespectful, Mom, but they were in the middle of... George interrupted. In flagrante delicto, Your Honor. Thank you, George. Yes, Mom, they were in a phlegmatic position. I think. John smiled. What do you mean, Zeem? If it means they were doing it in my bed in my house, that's correct. A hint of a smile appeared on the judge's face. And you decided to hit him? Yes, Mom, 3 times. My arm was hurting, so I didn't think a fourth would be warranted. The state appreciates your restraint, Mr. Baker. You'll be in my courtroom, let me find out, in 2 weeks. Is that satisfactory to you, mister? Hands? Yes, Your Honor, replied George. Mr. Baker, you've got the wrong guy. Mr. Gunaris is campaigning for state's attorney. It is my understanding that he is very unhappy with the costs associated with his emergency care and dental work that was required to repair the damage you caused. If he's not happy, neither is the district attorney. Be prepared. She smiled at John. Thanks, Mom. We'll be ready, George answered for him. Oh, and Mr. Baker, please don't hit anyone else. Yes, Mom. You are released on your own recognizance. Don't leave the state. Mr. Hands, you are responsible for making sure your client is in court at the appointed time. You are free to go. Yes, Mom, he'll be there. As George and John were leaving the stand, the judge heard George quietly exclaim to John under his breath. My God, she smiled. I've never seen her smile before. She seemed nice to me, George. She's never been called nice before, John, and the emphasis is on never. More like hung Harriet. That will be interesting. The next day, John received the termination papers by courier, stating that the partnership had been dissolved on moral grounds due to his arrest and pending sentencing. He took the letter to Tim's office and threw it away. Now there was really nothing left for him to do but wait. The yacht was still in Nassau. He was not allowed to leave the state, and he was unemployed. He drove to the bay in a rented car and sat on the shore and watched the water rise and fall until it was so dark that the water was no longer visible. The next day at 11 a.m., as he sat in his hotel room, the phone rang. Hello? John, please don't do this, please. Maggie, I told you I don't want to talk to you again until you give me a reason. John, I didn't mean for this to happen. It just happened. We were working and we went out for a drink, then we went dancing, and then we just happened to be here. Maggie, do you have any idea how much this hurts? You ripped my heart out of my chest. The only person I knew I could trust, the only person I could talk to whether I was proud or embarrassed, the person who never judged me. I thought we'd grow old together, play with our grandchildren together. Shit! John slammed his hand on the hotel room table. John, please let me explain. Let me show you that I love you. Please, meet me. Talk to me, please. You explain? Okay, one try. Then you'll sign the papers and we can move on with our lives. I'll have a lot of free time in the next couple weeks, and then I'll probably go away for a while. What do you mean going away for a while, and why do you have free time? You mean after work? No, I got fired, and I mean in jail. Pampers has pressed charges. Oh my God, John, how did you get fired? You were partners? My God, I cost you the business. I can never forgive myself. I'm so sorry. She cried and gasped between words. Moral disclaimer. If either of us is accused of a crime, the company goes to the other. I have a court date next week. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I won't let him do it, John. I won't. I don't think you have a choice. Are you still working with that bastard? John, please meet me. Let me see what I can do. Let me show you that I love you and only you. The fact that she was evasive didn't go unnoticed. It's too late for that. I just want to settle my affairs and get out of here. Please, John, just have lunch. We can talk. In a public place, I can't make too big a scene, please. Okay. Tomorrow, DeLuigi's in Little Italy. Noon? Okay, John, thank you. I love you, sweetheart. Don't say that and don't call me that ever again. You've lost the right to call me that. Okay, John, I'm sorry. He was sitting against the wall opposite the door when she came in. She was just as beautiful as she had been in college. Sure, she had a few pounds added, and her eyes were red, but he noticed for the 1,000th time that she had aged well. Maggie. He refrained from standing up as she approached the table. No hugs? She asked with a strained smile on her face. No. John, you're so cold. We've spent 30 years together. You had fun with another man in my bed. How many times? How long did it last? It was only once, John. Do you seriously expect me to believe it was the first time? I don't believe you. John, it was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just happened. You make it sound like you slipped on a banana peel and fell on it. You don't have to be rude, John. That's what Becky said. Right. John, I'm so sorry. I can't believe you've lost your company. What are you going to do? Are you going to fight it? No, it's spelled out in the contract, just like the morals clause in your contract of employment with the law firm. I'm going to sue him, you know. Alienation of affection. Sue the firm on the grounds that they didn't honor the morals clause regarding you and Pumper. I'll think of something. John, you're just trying to hurt me. It's okay, hurt me, I deserve it. Say whatever you want and I'll sit here and bear it. Take my job, make me suffer. I'll sit here and take it. Just let me show you that I'm sorry and I love you. Who was that guy in college? Tim, I think. Remember him? Maggie lowered her eyes, tears falling onto the tablecloth in front of her. Yeah, quietly and sadly. Remember when I told you then that it was your only chance? Yes. You won't have another. How would you feel if you came home, excited to meet the love of your life, and found him having fun with someone else in your bed? She paused. Oh my God, John, I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking. I didn't. You weren't just seeing me in your head at that moment, were you? It hurts, John. Pain sucks, doesn't it? You want to feel pain? How about the boys calling you and asking you what you did wrong? Why did they think I did something wrong? What did you tell them? I didn't tell them anything, John. I just told them. I just asked them where you were. Her sobs made her speak in scraps. You have to take responsibility for your actions. Until you do, nothing will change. I don't know if I'll ever get over it. I don't know if the pain will ever go away. I know I'll never be able to trust you again. I can't. I told you this would happen back in college. You're 10 against my 5. I'm done. If I don't end up in jail in the next 2 weeks, I'm out of here. Where did you go, John? I know it was on the boat. I went down there looking for you. I found your truck and took it home. It's sitting in the driveway. Give it to one of the guys. Give it to Sid. He hasn't accused me of anything. I don't know what's going to happen to Jimmy. He said you think I have a girlfriend. Maggie's face went pale. Oh God, no. Tears flowed uncontrollably down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. What have I done? You've ruined this family. I don't know, and don't tell me. I'll think it was worse than anything you tell me because I don't believe you anymore. John, please believe me. Please, it was just one time. We came home from the bar and it happened. It was a one-time thing. You slept with him, in my bed, the most vulnerable thing you can do to another man. In my bed. Anger threatened to take over again. Yes, John. I'm so sorry. I can't deal with this. I'm getting out of here. Don't call me, don't write me. Deal with the boys. If they call me, I'll know you took responsibility. I'll let you know if I don't go to jail. If I end up in jail, you won't be my only call. John stood up, threw a couple of 20s on the table, and walked out. Maggie reached for him, touching his arm as he passed her. When he interrupted the touch, she lowered her head to the table. Mr. Baker, the judge said, I see that you have taken responsibility for your actions. I see that you're driving a little fast, but otherwise you haven't broken the law. She was going over the papers on her desk, a wooden platform made of a light polished wood that John couldn't identify. It wasn't oak or pine. She raised her eyes to him standing in front of her. Do you have any statements to make? Anything you want to say that will affect your punishment? Well, Your Honor, I'm sorry that my actions have brought us all to this place. Sorry for wasting your time. I wish I could say I won't do it again, but I can't promise. If I caught my wife, he looked at George. In debauchery? The judge smiled as George whispered to him, Flagrante delicto. Yes, that's right, flagrante delicto. I'd be inclined to hit him again. I promise I'll do my best to restrain myself. Mr. Baker, are you working? Working, Your Honor, but I was fired from the business because of the morals clause. I couldn't be arrested. I'd like to come back, but that depends on what happens today. Okay, Mr. Baker, the court believes that what we have before us is a law-abiding citizen who made a bad decision due to extreme stress. I'm going to treat this case as a PBJ, Mr. Baker. Do you know what that means? I'm sorry, Your Honor, I don't know. It means I'm not declaring you guilty, but I'm not declaring you innocent either. I'm giving you probation until sentencing. This will remain on your record for 5 years. You will be on unsupervised probation for 5 years. If you commit another crime in the next 5 years, you will serve time for what your future crime deserves, but you will also be sentenced to time for that crime, most likely 5 to 10 years. Essentially double or nothing punishment. Do you think, Mr. Baker, you'll be able to behave yourself? Yes, Mother, Your Honor. It will help me restrain myself if I ever find myself in this position again. Your attorney will have papers for you to sign. You are free to go. Thanks, Mom. John turned to leave, took one more look at the judge who smiled at him, and left the room. The lawyers, John and Bob, sat at the table. I can't believe it, John. I've never seen her so easy on anyone before. I've never seen PBJ charged with assault. This is the first time you've been here. How will this affect our plan? How do I protect the business from Maggie? John, we can just take our chances. Just go back to work. If you don't, we may not have a business left to protect, said Bob. I'll keep working for the business. Tim, what if I go back to Bob as any other employee, not as a partner? We'll run the business, and when this is all over, Bob can promote me to partner, and we'll work as before. I think that could work, John. Let me go over the partnership agreements, see what provisions there are. In PBJ, you're not convicted of a crime, but I'm not sure you don't stay a partner. We have to do things by the book. Has she signed the papers? No. Not yet. Bob, I'm going back to Nassau. I'll work remotely and figure out how to get her to sign the papers. I may head to St. Louis next week or the week after. Are you sure, John, that you don't have a way back? No. I'm done. I just want to go. I want to move on with my life. John was walking down the wharf pier toward the Down Deep, looked down and saw the hole in the water where Sarah's boat was moored. For a moment, he was overcome with melancholy as he realized that she had disappeared from his life. He loved sitting and talking to her, and he would cherish the memories of the boat ride with her parents for the foreseeable future. She was proof that there were good, loyal women in the world. Maggie. She watched John walk out of the restaurant with her head down and felt his pain like a boulder on her chest. She found it hard to breathe, her hands were shaking. She wanted to take him in her arms, lay her head on his chest and just hold him tight. She wanted to make it go away like it had in the past when he was struggling. She stopped in the middle of the parking lot, heading to her car as she realized that it was truly over. She would never be able to hold him again. She kissed John one last time she felt his warmth. Tears flowed in a steady stream from under her sunglasses. Mom, really? Are you kidding me? Asked Jimmy. You got caught getting laid? In Daddy's bed? She heard him exhale. Do you know where he is? No, I charged him, but he's not answering my calls anymore. I think Sid knows where he is, but he won't tell me. Mom, I'm so mad at you. Jimmy, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did this. I can't understand why. I still love you, Mom, but I don't understand how you could do that to Dad. I'm just so damn mad at you. I have to call him. I need to apologize, too. I hope he takes my call. He's out of the country, Mom. He doesn't want to talk to you, and I don't think he wants to talk to Jimmy either. Sid answered the next call. Sid, please make him talk to me. Please make him give me another chance. Are you still working with this guy? Yeah, what else am I supposed to do? I've got bills to pay, a mortgage. Gah. Find another job, Mom, unless this guy means nothing to you and you're ready to leave this family. If you don't, the family will probably leave you. It's up to you. Sid, why are you being so rude? I'm not the one who screwed up, Mom, you are. Oh my God, I really screwed up, didn't I? Maggie hung up the phone and sat at the kitchen table with her head resting on her hands until the sun had set over the horizon and the room was dark. She walked to the bedroom and lay on the lonely bed in the dark until sleep finally came. She couldn't understand why the whole family was so angry. After all, it was one little slip-up, it meant nothing. She hummed to herself the song of the cheaters, like the commercials, impossible to get out of her head. John. The low crossing the Atlantic was the fifth named storm in this relatively calm season. The storm is forecast to increase in intensity and reach hurricane strength by the time it crosses the Virgin Islands. In its path will be Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, then it should turn north, with Turks and Caicos to the east and Nassau to the west. By the time it gets north and starts threatening the United States, it will have reached Category 3 or 4. It appears that the Carolinas will be in its sights later in the week. Fluctuations in either direction will affect the Turks and Caicos Islands or Nassau. Residents in these areas are asked to take shelter from winds approaching 140 miles per hour and storm surges of 4 to 7 feet. John had 2 days to prepare for the storm. He planned how he would tie up the Down Deep and began looking around the marina, watching for other boats. More places than usual were empty, and John guessed that they had decided to return their boats to the U.S. for storage. The remaining boats could be a problem. He grabbed the spare ropes he had aboard Down Deep and began tying the boats down. It was a struggle to accomplish 2 opposing goals. The ropes had to prevent the boats from colliding with the docks, but also be loose enough to withstand the storm's pressure. The marina workers met him at the dock. Hey, boy. What's up? Yeah, here, trying to secure the boats before the storm. I need more and longer ropes. I could use a dinghy, too. Why do you need a dinghy? I want to stretch the rope from my boat to the other side so it won't get caught on the dock. I'd like to run a fishing line to these boats, too, so they don't go into the dock. Let me get some more rope. I'll be right back. Hey, kid, what's your name? My name is John. What's yours? Jose, I think that's Spanish for John, no? He smiled at John, who smiled back. I think you're right. They shook hands and Jose ran off, bringing 5 more men with him when he returned with a wheelbarrow full of ropes, some old and some new, still with tags on them. For a day and a half, we tied the boats. The sky was blue and clear. There was no wind, but the sound of waves could be heard from the shore not far away. Singer, John, where will you live during the storm? I don't know, Jose. Hopefully in a concrete building nearby. I was going to try to get a room at one of the resorts. You'll stay with me and my family. It's safe here. We've been through many hurricanes and have never been hurt. It's not big or fancy, but it's fine. You'll see. Will you stay with us? Jose, thank you, but I don't want to inconvenience you and your family, although I do appreciate it. An inconvenience? What does that mean, Sr. John? To bother, to piss you off, to make it difficult. Ah, Jose smiled his crooked-toothed smile. You're not going to bother us. You'll stay with us. He nodded his head and it was settled. We're leaving. Get the house ready. John entered Jose's house, almost a shack made of cinder blocks with a tin roof, but they had driven uphill to get there. John found that comforting. It was dark inside, but neat and orderly. The house was a rectangular structure with a large room taking up the entire width of the house. It was screened off from the rest of the house by a curtain of beads. John heard a woman's voice from behind the curtain. Que huele? John realized from the timbre of the voice that she, whoever she was angry. Jose rolled his eyes and walked through the curtain, and John was left standing in indecision. He heard a conversation in an incomprehensible language. It started loudly, then quieted, and from behind the curtain came Jose, followed by a beautiful Hispanic woman in her 30s. She had long dark hair, a curve to her figure, and she floated on the floor rather than walked. She held out her hand and John shook it. Her skin was soft, but there were calluses on her fingers. You're Jose's new friend, aren't you? She said with a strong Spanish accent and in broken English. Yes, Mom, I'm here to... He looked at the windows. Help! Are you staying for the storm? Yes, Mom, if you don't mind. Okay. Thanks, Mom. You work, I cook. John followed Jose out the front door. Jose had pieces of corrugated tin that fit each window. John held them in place while Jose drove screws into holes that looked like they had already been used. As they worked, neighbors began to come over and help. When they finished with Jose's house, they moved on to the next house and the house next to it. The sky was getting darker and the first storm clouds were coming. John was so busy that he didn't have time to call the boys or worry about Down Deep. He did what he could to give him the best chance of surviving the storm. When they got back to Jose's house, they settled into a pair of canvas and wood chairs on the wooden platform that served as a porch. The Hispanic woman brought 2 cold beers, handed one to Jose, the other to John, and then turned and went into the house. Not a word was uttered. Is she your wife, Jose? Jose leaned back and laughed at the top of his voice. No, John. My wife is dead. He made a serious expression and thought for a moment. She got sick. This is Hermosa, which means beautiful in Spanish. She is my wife's sister, my sister-in-law. She's very beautiful. A couple of men came over, sat on the porch steps, and accepted a beer from Hermosa. She smiled for the first time in John's presence. It was a beautiful smile, teeth white and even, just a hint of wrinkles at the corners of her eyes. John sat and listened to the tone of the conversation between the men, not understanding the language except for a few phrases. He watched the sky and the few clouds that were approaching the island. He could have sworn he could see a curve. The wind began to pick up little by little, more than the light breeze he was used to, and he realized that a storm was fast approaching. He thought of Down Deep and realized he had done everything he could to protect the yacht, the boats at the marina, and the homes in the area. As he focused on the group, he saw that it had grown larger as darkness fell. As the rain began to fall, all the men got up and shook John's hand, thanking him. He guessed the response was de nada, but didn't know what it meant. One of the men hesitated while the others cleaned themselves up and was the last to approach John before he left. Thank you, Sister John, for helping us out today. You're a friend, aren't you? He smiled and shook John's hand. Yes, we are friends. You're welcome, Senor. John smiled and bowed slightly. A storm came, not as strong as predicted, but still strong. The power went out as John slept on the couch, and Hermosa stepped out from behind the curtain into the front room. The wind was roaring and John had trouble hearing her. She pointed to the couch and John got up and walked over to it. He smiled at her as she sat down. He put his arm around her shoulders, so small and fragile, and she snuggled into him as he hugged her. When there was a roll of thunder, she jumped up and he realized she was scared. They sat like that for hours and his arm went stiff, the tingling pinprick screaming at him to put his arm down. It's okay, we're safe, Hermosa. Her only reaction was to snuggle closer to him. Her breathing became even and he realized she had fallen asleep. As the roar of the wind began to subside, he too fell into slumber. He woke when she jumped up and almost as quickly got up. She was looking at him with an expression he couldn't understand. Part anger, part kindness, part shyness. Her straight hair was disheveled and swooped over one eye. She was breathtakingly beautiful. Jose came out from behind the curtain, looked at the two of them, shrugged, and said, "¿Qué pasa aquí?" She launched into a long dissertation that he really wished he could understand. She was animated. Her hands flew into the air, but he didn't understand a word. He turned to Jose for clarification. "She said you helped her to get through the storm. She was scared and you held her. She also said you were a perfect gentleman, but I'm not sure if she's happy about that or angry. Women, you can't understand them, can you?" "I can't, that's for sure, Jose." "Are you ready to go to the wharf? I need to check on the Down Deep." Hermosa left the room. "I think she's making breakfast." "Are you hungry, Senor John?" "We'll sit on the porch, okay?" John and Jose took 2 chairs to the porch, opened them, and sat down. John watched the neighborhood come to life. Fallen branches were dragged to the curb, cleaned up in front of the doors. Hermosa brought them each a plate of scrambled eggs with spicy salsa and small pieces of spiced beef. It was the most delicious dish John had ever eaten. John and Jose pulled fallen palm branches out of Jose's ancient Toyota pickup and prepared to leave. John reached out to shake Hermosa's hand, and she grabbed it, pulled him tightly to her, and laid her head on his chest for a moment. In a strong Spanish accent, she said, "Thank you." John bowed his head, got into the truck, and pressed himself against her. The trip was fast, and Jose jerked the steering wheel from side to side to avoid fallen branches and parts of houses littering the street. When they reached the marina, they found one boat flooded and another parked, but the Down Deep had weathered the storm normally, as had the other boats. Jose's crew slowly arrived at the site and got to work setting the boat in the parking lot. Jose looked at John and said, "Thank you, Senor, for your help with the preparations. We did well." "I expected the worst." "Jose, what are we going to do about the sunken boat?" "We? Are you helping?" "Of course, Jose. Do you have airbags?" "Slings? A compressor?" "Let's see, amigo." They found everything John thought they needed in the shed. John picked out 4 medium-sized bags and looked at the compressor. Obviously, he had his doubts. "It looks like crap, amigo, but it works. You'll see." John helped secure the airbags and went down into the water to run the straps under the sunken boat. He had Jose start the compressor and coughed as the ancient gasoline engine started, releasing a blue cloud that grew as it ran. The inflatable cushions, inflating, lifted the boat so that the keels were just above the water and the upper deck of the 40-foot sailboat leveled out. Jose found a gas-powered pump, and they sat in friendly silence, watching the water level in the boat slowly drop and the boat itself rise out of the water. They pulled the skiff out, and as a team, they removed the extra ropes from the boats that they had secured before the storm. By nightfall, the marina was in pretty good shape. "Senor John, thank you." John held out his hand, and Jose pulled him in for a hug. "Are you coming with me?" he asked, raising his eyebrows questioningly. "Thank you, Jose, but I'll stay on the deep. Please tell Hermosa thanks for everything." John started the generator on the Down Deep and charged his phone. As soon as it had enough charge to turn on, it started beeping. He received several messages from Sid, 2 from Jimmy and a message from Maggie. There was also a message from an unfamiliar number. "John, I know you weren't expecting to hear from me, but I heard about the storm and wanted to make sure you and Down Deep were okay. I'll be glad to hear back from you. Sarah." After assuring Sid that he was okay, he called Jim. "Hi, I saw you called." "Yes, Dad. Sid told me where you were. He was really worried about you." "Dad, I'm really sorry." "Mom told me what happened. I'm sorry I blamed you." "It's okay, Jim. I told you not to take sides until you knew the whole story." "I know, Dad. Can you forgive her? For the sake of the family?" "Jim, I can't. She's undermined my trust. I won't be able to do my job. I'll have to travel, each time wondering who she's with this time. I want to so badly, but I just can't." Maggie. "Oh my God, Becky, he's out there in the boat. I hope he's all right." "Maggie, I'm sure he's fine. He knows what to do to be safe. If anyone can get through this, it's John. What are you going to do with him?" There was a knock at the door. Maggie answered it. "Are you Margaret Baker?" "Yes." "May I see some identification?" "Oh my God, am I being served?" Becky. "He's really doing it. He's divorcing me." "You've been served, Mom." "I'm so sorry." Tears running down her cheeks, Maggie took the envelope and tore it open. She sank down on the couch, whispering, "No, no, no. Please, God, no. I lost it. I'm so sorry. It was just one time. It didn't mean anything." "Maggie, I'm so sorry, but it did mean something to John." 2 days after the storm, John was sitting on the deck with pieces of the pump in his hands in the bright sunlight. What are you doing? Fixing the pump. Is that a live well pump? John looked up and saw Sarah standing there in a pink and white striped shirt. Sarah, what are you doing here? He stood up and walked to the side of the boat next to where she was standing on the dock. I heard you had a storm here. I wrote you a message, but I never got a reply. May I come aboard? Please. Excuse me, let me get a chair. Where are you staying? I'm so glad to see you. I don't know where to stay yet. The hotels aren't all open yet, but I don't think there are that many people right now, and I'm sure I can find a room. I came here straight from the airport. I'm sorry, John, that was stupid. What do you mean, stupid? I thought you and hell, I don't know what I thought. I thought it was over, that I'd never see you again. And then the storm, I watched it like a soccer game. Sick when she left you and scared to death when she came back. I couldn't bear the thought of you needing help. I'm sorry, John, I shouldn't have come. I mean, hell, you didn't even kiss me once. Sarah, I don't know what to say. I'm not even married yet. Don't get me wrong, the time we spent together was special. You're an amazing woman. Let me figure something out, get you settled somewhere, and see what happens. Jose will help us. It's okay, John, A tear slowly rolled down her cheek. I'm just going back to the airport. I have to go. Let's talk to Jose first. Hold on tight. John leaned over and kissed the top of her head, heading off to find Jose. Epilogue. The next week, John and Sarah fished, sailed, relaxed on the beach, basically spent another week in the sun getting to know each other. They flew to the mainland together when John left for St. Louis, and in the months that followed, they talked on the phone often. John rented a house on the island and set up an office. He arranged with Bob that he would return to the office for a few days each month and travel directly to clients from Nassau and do his design work online. Bob promoted John to shareholder, and they opened an office working on projects on the islands with 5 engineers and support staff. Maggie agreed to the terms of the divorce. She kept the house where the boys were raised. Liquid assets were divided equally. Maggie sued the law firm for harassment, and Pumper, as she now thought of him, was fired. He had a hard time finding a new job and soon left the area. His claim against John was summarily dismissed. John received settlement compensation from the firm, but set that amount aside for the grandchildren he hoped to have soon. Sarah and Maggie met on a sunny afternoon when Sid and Kristen and Jim and Courtney arrived for a visit. John stood on the porch of the bungalow he had rented, his first grandchild sitting on his lap in a worn but sturdy rocking chair. Maggie stood at the foot of the porch stairs and watched John play with the baby. John, I thought we were going to do this together. God, I'm so sorry, but it really didn't mean anything to me. Maggie, it meant a lot to me. It meant that everything we shared didn't matter to you. It meant that family, trust, all the morals we taught the boys meant nothing to you. It was something I couldn't forget. It killed my trust and broke my heart. I had to move on or die. It was that simple. Hey, baby, Sarah said as she walked out the door carrying a tray of iced tea for John and a soft drink for the baby. She stopped and looked at Maggie, turned and looked at John, then back at Maggie and said, Hi. You're so beautiful, just like John said. I'm Sarah. Maggie's shoulders slumped and a tear rolled down her cheek. I hope we can be friends. Sarah held out her hand to shake. Hi, Sarah, I hope so too. Take good care of him. He deserves it. You're a very lucky woman. The end. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. So subscribe to my channel and watch the next video.